one of our big problems in our community is that we are kind of an invisible group of people. They don't think of us as still being here. We don't have a contemporary voice. And if you don't think of us as a contemporary people, at what point are you able to then have awareness or understanding or be an ally for some of the social justice issues that impact Indigenous people right now?
I'm working on a mural as part of Art in the Streets here downtown Colorado Springs, and I've got a large portrait of a young Indigenous girl, a handprint on her face, which denotes missing and murdered Indigenous women, sort of a silent epidemic that's happening throughout Indian country. Raise a little awareness about that. My daughter's the model, my oldest daughter, she's 14, and she's been a model in my work pretty much since she was born. So she's just simply representing a face, so it's not necessarily specifically about her. I like the juxtaposition between her being Indigenous, fighting for this issue with the handprint, but also just having something that's accessible as, you know, a young American teenage girl that just happens to be Indigenous too.
Do you want me to repaint that?
Maybe.
It doesn't feel like me. I am like a symbol, which is part of a community that stands for something else. And I think it's really cool that a lot of people get to see it and that they might be able to be inspired by it. The only representation was these caricatures that are incorrect, and even like Pocahontas from the Disney movie is not historically accurate, and she's very sexualized, and like that was the only representation that we have. And now me as a Native person, I get to be up there representing Native people and this epidemic. I think that it's very important that we get that type of representation.
So I've been friends with Gregg for a while, since him and his family moved to Colorado Springs. And when he said that he was going to be doing this mural to bring awareness to missing and murdered Indigenous women, he wanted to know if we would like to partner with that in some capacity. And so anything to bring awareness to the crisis that's currently going on. We are the only urban response for Native survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking in El Paso County. We're the only one in the state off the reservation right now. Hopefully that will be changing and there'll be more organizations. So any amount of awareness, we're hoping that people see this and they think, oh, well, what's this about? Google it and get a little bit more background. And if we can get more referrals for Native survivors than that way, because the statistics right now are more than 4 out of 5 Native women experience violence at some point in their lifetime. So almost every Native family in this town is going to be impacted by this in some way or another. It's interesting to hear how many people who've come by over the last couple of days have never heard of this. And so, you know, that's a privilege. Like, I don't know any Native people who haven't been impacted by this.
First and foremost, Indigenous people are here. When we talk about something like, let's say what's happening right now in a national discussion, mascots, that those things contribute to misunderstanding and even sometimes the dehumanization of Indigenous people, all of which contribute to issues like missing and murdered Indigenous women. The young lady that was killed here in the Springs recently, her name was Sherry. She was murdered in front of her 6-year-old son and by a non-Native person. So it's something that affects all of us. And even though we don't show up on the statistical spectrum, oftentimes because we're such a small community, we're still, members of this community. We're still Americans. We're still citizens, and so that should matter in the same way that Black Lives Matter and other marginalized and smaller groups, matter within our communities.
Once you hear those statistics, once you understand that work, it's really hard to unhear it. The more positive contemporary representation we can have, the better it makes for all Indigenous issues, because they're all intertwined.